the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And we are live and recording. Welcome to Doomed to Fail, the twice weekly podcast hosted by myself, Fars, and Taylor about things that are doomed to fail. Hi, Taylor. How are you?
I am good. How are you? That was a great intro. I got feedback from my husband that was very like, your intro sucks. Do better.
Was that a better intro?
That was, for sure.
Should I ask Juan to rate it?
Yeah, maybe rate us one or something.
Yeah.
You're gonna cry about it.
Yeah, Juan. Why don't you do one better? How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make your own twice a week podcast about items that are doomed to fail, and then you do your. I'm derailing. Okay. Anyways, so happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
And dog fathers count. So happy Father's Day to me.
Yes.
And Juan, who I just railed against. Happy Father's Day to my victim. Okay. Anyways, so we are off to another topic, and I think Taylor, I go first this time.
I thought I did, but you can. I don't care. Because we did last week. You went first. You did Juicero, then I did Andrew Jackson. So I go first.
You go.
Okay. Okay, well, now I feel like I'm not ready. Now I feel kind of thrown into this. Cool.
You were gonna go first anyways.
I know, I'm just kidding. Okay. As I told you last week, I'm going to do a 4-part series starting today. And this should be an entire podcast on its own, and I'm sure that it is because there's like 1,000 different stories to tell about this thing. But I'm going to tell you some stories about an event that is about to happen in Paris. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Olympics. Olympics.
The Olympics, indeed.
Right.
So today, let's talk about the ancient Olympics, what they looked like, who was there, and then the revival in the late 1800s, early 1900s, how you get in the Olympics, and then what's going on in Paris right now as they're getting ready to host the Olympics starting in July. Then part 2 will be Olympics, but now Hitler is here, which will be pre-1950 Olympics. So I'm going to tell the story of the 1936 Berlin Olympics and some other anecdotes that happened between then and then. Part 3 will be, they're even more political. There's going to be civil rights involved. There's going to be the massacre at Munich involved, and that will get us from 1950 to 1980. And then part 4 will be about Los Angeles and the police, the Atlanta bombing. And honestly, I can't remember what that was about. So I'm excited to try to remember that. I don't remember at all who did that or why.
Richard Jewell, was that his name? Yeah.
Was that him or was it the guy who we thought did it?
That's the guy that we thought did it, but really it was a white supremacist who is now at the Supermax ADX in Florence, Colorado.
Nice.
I know that because I was like, I started like looking up weird prison stories, and I found out what ADX Florence was. I was like, this sounds like hell on earth. Who would possibly be here? And I was like,
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All the
We'll
names
talk
check
about
off the
that
list.
in part 4. There's also going to be some fun stories. We'll talk about the Jamaican Bobsled Team because that's a delight and like all the things. So we'll talk about little things, but then some big main stories. But today, let's start us off with what the Olympics were, where they were, and then how they were done. Cool?
Sweet.
Do you enjoy the Olympics, Fars?
You're going to be shocked to hear that I do not.
Oh my God, I love them. And I know it's stupid and I don't care. I cry every time. I'm going to talk more about that later. So, in ancient Greece, the Olympic Games took place every 4 years. 4-year time span is called an Olympiad. If you ever want to put your life into those quadrants, you can say, I went to high school for an Olympiad. I think you can say that because it's 4 years.
You are a total nerd.
Don't you sound cooler to say that? Anyway, they took place every 4 years from 776 BC to 339 AD. So a long time. They were mostly a religious event. Like, yes, there were sports, but it had a religious context, and it was to celebrate Zeus. And there's a few myths on like why they do this for Zeus and like why this came up. But essentially, like the Greek and Roman gods, they're always like wrestling each other and fighting and trying to figure out who's the strongest. So sports were, the same thing for humans. And all free Greek males could compete. So it was all dudes. They had to be free, so they couldn't be a slave. But anyone from like a poor person working in a shop to a king or an emperor could compete. And eventually they would become the Panhellenic Games, which means like more of Greece, but this is basically thinking Olympics in Olympia. Women had their own games. They were called the Herrera Games, and they would have one race every time the Olympics was done. And it was a 190-meter race, and it was divided into groups based on age. So like you would win based on your age group, just like the 5K that I was in that did not win.
But
Make
that
sense?
you did participate in, and the newspaper did not recognize.
Indeed.
Got it.
Thank you for remembering. So the one thing that women could do is they could own a chariot. And when a chariot won a race, the owner was the one who got the prize. And so in 396 BC and 392 BC, Caniska, the daughter of a Spartan king, did win the victory wreath, which is like an olive wreath, those 2 years. So she's the only woman who won in the ancient Olympics. It's because she owned a chariot, and that was something that she was allowed to do. So there were games like all over Greece. These people were sporty, like I said. The most common one was Olympia. So now they have like excavated stadiums. It could hold 40,000 people, like the big stadium that they had there. It's also where the great statue of Zeus, which was one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, was as well. So it sounds like it was pretty fun, pretty awesome there. They had a lot of stuff, huge stadiums. They probably had a ton of infrastructure. It was like a big party for Zeus. Obviously, they're like slaughtering all these animals to Zeus, but really that means it's a barbecue,
Let's
you
get
know?
meat.
Yeah. Everyone's eating. There's like vendors outside selling stuff like dumb t-shirts, like you get at a concert. Probably
That
scalping
sounds fun.
tickets. Yeah. So all this stuff is happening. They're probably tailgating in some way as well. The stadium in Olympia would be rebuilt a few times during like the 1,000 years of the ancient Olympics. And when it wasn't a stadium, it was a wheat field because Olympia wasn't really populated except during that time. So they would grow wheat in the field and then harvest it and then have the Olympics again every Olympiad, which is how long?
4 years.
Perfect. So, and we're basically talking the Summer Olympics. So there was a book that I did not read that I was trying to find a book to read about this, and I found one on Amazon, but I couldn't find it at the library and like all the things. So I read some articles instead. But one of the reviews was like, this book on the ancient Olympics doesn't talk about the Winter Olympics at all. Like, do you think they were fucking skiing in Greece 1,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago? 3,000? No. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I
They
guess if
weren't.
it's invented in Greece, then it doesn't make sense.
There's no like bobsled. There's no luge in ancient Greece. It's just like obviously that I'll talk about when the Winter Games came, but we're talking Summer Olympics. We're not talking
Right.
winter.
And all honestly, it's really the Summer Olympics that we're excited about. Like the winter is like whatever.
But winter has figure skating, and that's always fun. And
Okay, the figure
speed
skating part
skating,
is fun. That's
also
true.
fun. Um, but but yeah, no, we're just talking Summer Olympics. Everyone who participated in the Olympics was naked, which seems hard. Like I don't have I have girl parts, but like if I'm not running with like seven sports bras on, it's really, really hard to run. So it feels like it'd be hard to run a race naked.
I don't know. I
You
mean,
tell
I
me.
could, I could,
You okay with it?
I think I'd be okay with it. I think I'd probably do better naked
All right.
because
All
I'd
right.
want to like be out of eyesight as quickly as possible. So I'd run faster.
That's fair. Everyone's looking at you and you're like terrified, like running as fast as possible. I like that. That makes sense. So some of the things that started off in the ancient Olympics, some of the games that were played, there was wrestling, obviously, and boxing. There was something called the pancreaton, pancration. I did not look up how to say it. Pankratation, which is both wrestling and boxing, and there are no rules. It's kind of like MMA, I feel like, but like really there are no rules. So some of the people who are like famous for being ancient people who were in this event, one guy, his name was Archeon. He was in the middle of this like wrestle punch battle and he was being strangled. I'm acting this out for you. He was being strangled with like one arm from the guy that the guy that was strangling him. Then Archeon took his hand and crushed the guy's foot, and the guy screaming out in pain, and he gave up, like raised the finger to like be like, I give up. And as soon as he did that, the guy died anyway. So he won postmortem.
The
Like
guy
he
who
won,
crushed the foot is the one who
died.
died.
hmm
Weird.
Like he took his last bit of strength to crush the foot, and then he died. But he won because the guy had surrendered or like tapped out. Tapped out. One guy named Milan of Croatan, he was huge. He was like a famously huge guy. He would bring in his own cow when the Olympics started, like on his back. Like he would hold it, like Paul Bunyan,
This
and
all sounds like bullshit.
would
This all sounds like weird Greek myth building.
he would hold the cow on his back, and then he would eat the whole cow in one day just to prove
That's
how big and strong he was. Then he would drink 9 bottles of wine, and then he'd go out and do this event. And then eventually when he was like 40, he couldn't do it anymore, which is fair. And he lost his last fight in the Olympics. But even though he lost, they like held him up and they were like, he's a champion. Like we really like, he's a legend. And then later, he died because he was trying to pull up a tree stump by himself with his bare hands, and he got tangled up in the tree and he got eaten by wolves. I don't know.
this is all this is all
That's
lies.
probably not
Like,
true,
you
but
know
it's
this is
fun.
all lies. Okay.
I know, but what a fun story.
Yeah, but
Like,
you could
these guys that
anybody could be anybody back then because whoever makes the most audacious stupid lie is like only I don't know. Whatever. We can move on.
I know, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if ancient history isn't true, you have to believe it.
Yeah, I think that's the Dan Carlin thing.
Another guy named Sostris of Sion, his signature move was he would break fingers. So I feel like he'd be like, "Oh man, I don't want to go in there with that guy. He's gonna break my hand," you know? Um, so there was that. There was a long jump where you would hold weights that were like kind of like a curve, like a half circle with like a handle, and the weight would help you jump further, you know? So you would like throw yourself forward with the weight. That's how they would long jump. Does that make sense?
Would
You're
that
looking at me
work?
weird. I did watch a recreation of it and it like kind of worked.
I feel like you're
So,
weighted down so you can't even get enough inertia.
but you're like throwing yourself with the weights. I feel like that would totally work. Yeah.
Do we know why they stopped doing it?
Well, they stopped doing the whole thing. So I'll tell you why they stopped doing the
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing. Yeah. So there were javelin and discus, which we still have today, chariot races. The very first Olympic game was probably the stadion, which is that 190-meter race. And that's where the word stadium comes from. So that 190-meter race was called the stadion. That's where we get the word stadium from.
But
There's also a pentathlon. And I think there's a modern pentathlon that is a little bit different because the ancient one was running, long jump, discus throw, javelin throw, and wrestling. I think we took out wrestling and added something else in the pentathlon. But there's that. People actually, I mean, actually and obviously died in these Olympic Games, whether it was from, exhaustion or being beat up or being murdered or whatever. Um, and technically, the Greeks invented sports medicine because they had a lot of people to take care of after these, you know.
yeah, of course.
Imagine all the shins. Other countries weren't there, obviously, but it was just like different Greek city-states like against each other. So there's a lot of like nationalism, like there's now, like you're excited for your country. Another thing is like when you were running races, it wasn't to break records, it was just to win. It's probably because you couldn't like accurately time something, you know?
I mean, yeah, there's no photo finish. You're not gonna like break
Yeah,
it down to the seconds or milliseconds, really.
yeah. Sometimes emperors would do it. So a little bit toward the end of the ancient Olympic Games, Emperor Augustus held a revival, and King Herod from the Bible, he helped pay for it. So it's happening around then. You'll remember that Nero wanted to win everything, and he would win a bunch. He won a chariot race, even though he fell off his chariot.
I mean, he's
So
Nero.
good for him. So obviously, like he did a bunch of it. But the ancient games stopped in 393 because Theodosius the first, or maybe his son, they're not 100% sure, just said cut it out. It was probably because like polytheism was going out of fashion and it was a thing for Zeus. Also, the temple burned down, so they just like stopped doing it around then. And there were still like games around the area, but nothing like the Olympics. Like, hundreds of thousands of people would come to these games to watch them, to sell their things. It was like a huge deal, and they stopped doing it around 393 AD. Um, so let's talk about the modern Olympics for a little bit. So, like I said, I love the Olympics. I think they're super fun. They're almost impossible to watch because like cable stations will have them, but they like some of them will have commentary and some of them won't, and they'll be at weird times. And it's just like they make it as hard as humanly possible to watch them on TV.
Let me ask you, Taylor, what do you love about them?
I like a sporting event. I like stories of people who work really, really hard all their lives for like their one thing and then they get it. And I like the part where all of the countries come out and they're all dressed differently and they're all like really excited and happy to be there, really proud. And when I like watching the medal. I do the whole thing. I like watching the medal count. I think that's really exciting. I'm just happy for people who have like something to do.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
even make
fair.
sense? I don't know. I just like I think it's fun that people get together and do a thing. And then like as we're going to talk about in the next month, we can't just get together and have a good time because people are terrible. But if we could, how fun would that be?
I mostly like the things that are fun and cool to watch. Like, I think, like that figure skating is incredible. I think that the gymnastics, it is always incredible to watch that. But
Hmm.
I also think about like the people who've spent like 15, 20 years becoming the best at something kind of useless.
I mean,
Like the curling people or like the archery people, where I'm like, you're never going to be on a cereal box. You're never going to. w- How are you going to turn this in? Like, you could have literally just learned a skill in that time.
no, I get it. But like, then what? They'd be like the best accountant at their accounting firm? Who cares?
Well, no, I just look at
At
it from a
least they have a
perspective
gold
of
medal.
it sucks that somebody could become the best at something that is kind of useless and leaves them high and dry, sort of. You know?
I know, but I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, but like, I'm not the best at anything.
Well, I mean,
Like, if I'm not gonna
I'm
be
not
like
going to agree with you.
I'm the best at like one random ass sport. Like, that's really cool.
But the other thing, Taylor, is like I look at basketball in the Olympics, and I just do not understand that because it's supposed to be amateur. It's supposed to be
Hmm.
amateur sports. That's the whole
Yeah.
point of the Olympics. And then the
Hmm.
U.S. takes LeBron James, Steph Curry, like the greatest by leaps and bounds in the sport, and puts them on a team and calls it Team USA. And it's like, what is how is this amateur sports? Like these are the
Well, I think that they changed that in 1994, right? Let's talk about it later because we'll talk about the Dream Team. And I had really great CD that had a bunch of songs on it, including I think possibly songs, a lot of songs by Will Smith on it. But they changed that rule. But it's amateurs on purpose, and I'm going to tell you who decided it should be amateurs. And then we can
we
kind of go from there.
let's keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because I agree. That that is weird. And also we like didn't win last time.
I don't remember. I definitely don't watch the basketball stuff. I watch the ice skating and the anyways, go ahead. Yeah.
Um, so okay, ancient Olympics done. Things are Romans, Greeks, empires, blah blah blah. They're not doing it anymore. So modern Olympics. I did go to a Special Olympics opening ceremony in LA and I cried the entire time. It was lovely. It was so fun. Everyone was so excited. Stevie Wonder sang a song. Michelle Obama was there. It was great. And the Kennedys
When was that?
do that. It was in Florence was the baby, so it must have been in 2015.
Wait, the Olympics were in LA when we were there?
The Special Olympics.
Oh, the Special Olympics. Okay,
The
got it.
Olympics are going to be in LA in 2028.
No
So
way.
the next Summer Olympics will be in LA. And
Oh,
we're
cool.
definitely going to something weird. Like something weird that you can't get tickets to. Like that you can get tickets to. No,
Yeah. Okay. So that was the other thing I was going to say that like I am turned off by the Olympics. It feels like a luxury thing to attend. It feels like you
absolutely.
have to be like in the upper class to even consider attending.
I mean, especially if you travel, if I'm like, oh, I'm going to travel to Paris to go watch the Olympics, it's going to cost me so much more than it normally would to travel to Paris because of the Olympics, and then I have to like buy the tickets and stay in an expensive hotel and like blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I'm sure that like you can't get an Airbnb in Paris in July at the
Right.
moment. So
Right.
yes, it's a very privileged thing to be able to go to for sure. And it's a privilege. I think there are some, obviously like we've seen in films. I'm thinking of The Cutting Edge, but like, if your child wants to be an Olympian in something and they look good and you keep doing it, it is such a time and money commitment. It's like crazy for a family, you know?
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, like if you wanted your kid to be a master figure
hmm
skater, like that's like yeah, we've all seen the Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding movie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna put that on my list of things to talk about. So now it is 1894. And we are in France. And there is a dude. His name is Pierre de Coubertin. We'll call him Pierre. He's an aristocrat. He's a rich guy. He goes to boarding school. Most people at the boarding school go home, sometimes he stays there the whole time. He becomes pretty religious. And after he's done, he's like, okay, what do I do now with my life? He could pretty much do anything. He has a lot of money. And he goes to England like on vacation and he's like, oh, the people here are in much better physical shape than the French, and they work well together. And he attributes it to physical education. So he sees like people in England, uh, you know, playing sports and doing things as a team. And he's like, this will be helpful when there's a war that they already know how to work together. And we're not doing that in France. And we're like not prepared to work together in this way. So he goes back to France and tries to start like a physical education revival thing in France, but it doesn't really work out. But um, it does give him an idea to start the modern Olympics. So he's like, let's give people an opportunity to like work in a team, to train, to like be physically active, because there really wasn't that in France. That's why he did it. So there's a lot of back and forth, but he creates the International Olympic Committee, which is still around.
Wait, Taylor, are you
And
basically saying that from 300 whatever AD until the 1800s there was no Olympics?
yes,
That's wild. Okay.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it
it
was
was
a
like,
Frenchman that did it?
yeah,
Weird. Right.
because he was like, these French guys need to up their ante and start working out.
Yeah, like stop just having wine and cigarettes and baguettes and
Run with your
painting.
cigarettes.
Run with your cigarettes. There we go.
Get naked and run because you're embarrassed
The
until you're
old
not
Fars
embarrassed
move.
anymore. Um, so the first modern Olympics were in 1896 in Athens. The second were in Paris in 1900. Sometimes they were coordinated around the World's Fair. So it'd be like at the same time that the World's Fair was. But finally in 1906, it kind of like gets going and rolls into more of what we know today. Somehow Pierre, the man who brought the Olympics back, won a gold medal in poetry, which feels like that is not
A
currently an event,
sport. That is the opposite of a sport.
but whatever. And so there's some criticism about him. Like he was definitely like a romantic and idealized ancient Greece and was like, this is going to bring world peace. This is going to bring people together. That people are going to love this. And it does not, obviously, but
Humans don't want world peace. Humans don't want
100%.
peace. Like it's
We
just
just
not
can't
in
do
our
it.
DNA.
No. But I mean, bless his heart, I can see how you would think that it could, you know? Um, but it didn't. So a little friendly competition between all the people. So that's going. The Winter Olympics start in 1924, and those include the things like bobsledding, curling, ice hockey, Nordic skiing, which is like the one where you cross-country ski and then shoot a gun. Have you seen that one?
No. Is that,
You like
that's still a
cross-country,
thing.
yes, you cross-country ski and then you shoot like a target,
Okay,
and then
Taylor,
you
that's
like
what
hit
I'm talking about.
somewhere.
Like, if you had just worked at Burger King, the griddle at Burger King for like those 25 years, you could have owned a Burger King, but instead, all you learned how to do was a leisure sport like ski and shoot a gun, which points to the fact that like why I'm kind of against the Olympics in this context because it's like only the uber
Yeah,
rich can possibly have that. Is their only thing they do for like 20 years.
1,000%. So I agree, and yes, like, I totally agree with that. It's definitely a rich person's sport. A lot of these things are like Princess Zara, who has Prince William's cousin. She was like in the Olympics for like horses. You're like, well, of course you were a fucking princess. You can have a horse and be in it all the time and learn how to ride it really well. You know, whatever. Um, but the
Sorry, dogs were barking. Yes,
no,
understood.
but you know what I mean. And then like, but also like, you only have one life. Shit. If you really like something, go do it. We'll talk about more
I know.
inspirational stories. We'll talk
Th-
about
th-
inspirational stories of poor people doing this.
I mean, the vast majority of my resentment towards everything has to do with the fact that it's rich people can do it, so I can't, and therefore my
Yeah,
resentment builds.
no, that's totally fair. Totally fair. Um, so yeah, there's the whatever it's called, like the cross country skiing and shooting. I'm gonna look it up. It's called something. Oh, it's called the biathlon. It's just skiing and shooting. Anyway, bias. Okay, cut that out. We'll
So
talk
let
about it
me.
later.
No, we don't. Do you really want me to cut that out?
No, it's fine. There's
I
like
was
the
gonna
20
say,
minutes where I was Googling. You can cut out.
if I told you that my hobby is to fish and then when I catch a bass, detonate a bomb. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, what
No,
are
I
you
know it doesn't make
talking
any sense.
about? Like,
Well, it comes from okay, so it comes from the Norwegian military because that's how they would have to learn how to fight is they would cross country ski and then shoot because it's cold as shit up there.
it is so charming. I wish I was in a war as like a Nordic soldier.
You've come around. Um, no, and then there's also like I remember one time, oh gosh, I'll talk about this maybe later, but there was used to be like ski dancing. People would like dance on their skis in like the 80s. So there's like some sports come and go. Some are more popular than others, but um two things I wanted to note about the Winter versus the Summer Olympics. One, these both come from my childhood. So one, I did a report on speed skating in fourth grade, and I had to write a letter to like the American Speed Skating Association, and they sent me back like a bunch of pamphlets and a poster. And it was very cute.
That's very
But
cute.
that's how you researched in the 80s. And then, oh my God, I remember. So the last Winter Olympics, they used to be the same year as the Summer Olympics. Do you remember this? So they were always held the same year. The last one was in 1992, where the Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics were held in the same year. Then they'd wait 4 years, and then they would, do it together again. They changed it so that then the next one was in 1996, so it kind of like pushed it out a little bit, and now they're
Every
every
two
2 years.
years. Yeah.
It's one or the other. But they changed in the 90s, and I remember I had this fucking bitch of a English teacher in sixth grade. And this is when this was like a thing that was in the news. And she was like, let's talk about something that is in the news right now that is like, we could have like a debate about or whatever. And I like raised my hand and I was like, well, what about the Olympics? And she was like, they already decided that. That's dumb. And she told me I was dumb. She was such a bitch. And so I always think about her when I think about the Winter Olympics, and I wish I didn't. And then last night I was like, I hope she's dead. I looked it up. She's dead. She died in 2021. I read her obituary and I smiled like 3 times. 'Cause I was like, I'm so glad that bitch is dead.
Taylor, when I was in like second grade, it was like a weekend and my mom took me and my brother to like the local park and it was like springtime. And so bluebonnets were everywhere. And I picked a bluebonnet so I could take it to my teacher on Monday. And I took it to
Mhm.
my teacher and she took me outside of the classroom. She grabbed my arm and took me outside the classroom. It was like, picking a bluebonnet, which is a state flower of Texas, is illegal, and this is a crime. And like, she basically made me seem like I was a criminal for trying to
Oh, what a
give her a
bitch.
flower. And I don't remember her name. I cried for like fucking weeks after that. And I now, as an adult, I'm like, I hope you're dead.
I wish she's dead too.
Fucking
Ugh,
piece of
I'm so
shit.
sorry. What a piece of shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, what a bitch. Anyway, so my
Anyways,
bitch of teacher is that.
if you're a teacher, be better.
Yeah, and you
That's
know
all
that
I'll
we
say.
remember you.
Yeah, we will remember you and we will
Yeah,
spite you and we will wish bad karma upon you.
I know being a teacher is hard, but she was terrible. So that's when they separated. So now the question you're asking is, how do I get my city to host an Olympics, Taylor?
That's what I was
Because I
thinking.
would love to do this. Yes, I would love to have all of this. I'd love to spend billions of dollars, really. I'm like itching to do it.
Doesn't
So
hosting the Olympics almost always inevitably bankrupt the host city?
yeah, it's horrible.
Got it.
Yep. So the IOC will have a bid. The International Olympic Committee has a bid for the games. So you have to kind of like fight for the game. Even to bid, tens of millions of dollars. So you have to like put together infrastructure plans. You have to like do marketing, put up your case, all the things. It's settled about 7 years in advance. So Paris announced its intention to bid for this year in 2015. And it ended up going down to Paris and Los Angeles for this year. And they made a deal that Paris got this year and LA gets 2028. Um, so once you get it, now you're in trouble because you have to build Olympic villages. You have to build more transportation. You have to build like the Atlanta airport was new in the 90s because of the Olympics. You have to like rebuild everything. Some of the Olympics have like absolutely insane price points. The Beijing Olympics in 2008 reportedly cost around $45 billion, and the Sochi Olympics exceeded 50 billion in 2014
Well,
because that was in
they probably
Russia.
also they probably had nothing infrastructure wise to begin with.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I will say, if you're the mayor of a city, a really incredible way to completely fuck over your successor is to win the Olympic bid because at the
You don't have
time
to do it.
you're gonna look like a superhero. Like, oh my God, like, he believed Paris, the guy at Paris did this, and then like fuck the guy in 7 years who has to execute on all this.
Oh my God. Let me tell you about the Paris mayor in a little bit, what her deal is. So yes, and of course also like they're to build these things if they're like aren't things already because you have to build like all sorts of stadiums. So you have to move people around. So in both Rio and Beijing and everywhere, they're doing it in Paris right now. They're displacing unhoused people and people who like live in the areas that they need. In Beijing, they displaced 1.5 million people, and they were doing things like just putting up walls between the Olympic stadiums and like really poor neighborhoods, so you couldn't
Yeah,
see
of
them.
course.
So
How
there's
else would you
also
do it?
no, I know. But there's also then
You're
like
gonna
now in
displace
Beijing,
the rich people.
I know. But like n- so that's what I'll tell you. That's what people in France are protesting right now is they're like, couldn't we use this money to help the poor people rather than like box them up behind a wall?
Like you're the first one kicked out of this behind the wall.
Yes.
Whoever raised the
So
topic.
exactly. So they're building these huge buildings in record time. So they're cutting corners, and then what do you do with them afterwards? Like, do you need 17 stadiums in your city? You probably don't. So a lot of the ones like in Beijing are like in ruins already. Like they're like falling apart. No one needed them. No one uses them. So now it's 2024 for everyone listening to this in the future. And Paris, France, had Olympics in 1900 and in 1924. So it's been 100 years since they've had their last Olympics. This year, they're hosting the Summer Olympics. It starts on July 26th, and the Paralympics start right after. So the Paralympics is for people with like physical disabilities. They'll be right after, also in Paris. There are going to be games in 16 other cities around Paris, like in the Paris metropolitan area, and one in Tahiti, which France technically still owns part of. Some of the stadiums already existed and were renovated. Some fun things is beach volleyball. It's going to be held in a park in front of the Eiffel Tower.
That's
Sounds fun.
fun.
Yeah, that'll be delightful. Um, the equestrian events and the modern pentathlon will be held at Versailles. Super cool.
Very cool.
Um, the oh, guess what do you know what the new sport is this year?
I could not even venture a guess.
Breakdancing.
I guess that's as much of a sport as skiing downhill and fucking shooting a gun is.
Yes. So breakdancing will be there for the first time, which will be super fun. And the mascot, John Oliver talked about this the other day. The mascot is this like cap called the Therigan. It's like a French cap. It's like a red cap that kind of like flops over. So it looks like two weird droplets of blood, but it's like a cap. It's very strange. But there's like people dressed like it and like waving. That's their mascot this year. Um, there's already some problems happening already. There are some security concerns. Um, France, obviously, they are they love protesting. They're big protesters. So there's going to be a lot of protests. The Qatari emir is coming, so there's got to be extra security for that. Japan and the United States are modernizing their command structure that's supposed to be able to like help with security. Do you know who the U.S. ambassador to Japan is right now?
No clue.
It's Rahm Emanuel. I just feel like I didn't know that.
Weird.
Weird, right?
Man, that guy did good for himself, huh?
What a fucking job. So many
Wow,
cool jobs.
he's been crushing it since like 2008. Like, good for him.
I know. They are worried about the opening ceremonies, that there might be some sort of like attack or violent protest or something. So it's been cut down. You used to initially you could just show up, and now you have to have like a special ticket. Like they're gonna be really careful, and hopefully everything is okay. But the fun thing that involves the mayor of Paris and Macron, the French president, is that they want the swimming events to be held in the Seine, which is the
Wait,
river that goes to Paris.
did you just watch Under Paris?
No, what's that?
Oh my God. It is
Is
a
that about
Netflix movie.
the all of the dead bodies?
No, it is a shark movie, and it's based on
Oh,
people
fun.
doing a competition in the Seine,
Oh my
which
God,
is
how fun.
incredible. Yeah, you got to watch it. It's
Um,
very, very stupid. It is dumber than shit. Open like 3 bottles of wine for you and Juan, and then have the kids asleep, and then just like after your first bottle is done, when you're a little bit tipsy, then start playing it. It's fun.
um, this looks really fun. No, I love. Remember that one with like the crocodiles or the alligators were all over Florida, like eating people during a hurricane? It was great. No, that's exciting. But yeah, it's in the Seine. So but you have not been allowed to swim in the Seine since 1923. And that was before the last time that Paris hosted the Olympics 100 years ago. That's how dirty it is. It's like
Yikes.
parts of it have like no life. It has no life in it. Like there's no fish. There's no like it's full of E. coli. It's like really, really gross. And it's not ready. So it's today's June 16th. It's going to start in a month or so. The river is not ready. They're going to spend $1.2 billion to clean it up. And the mayor of Paris has said that she will swim in it, and so did Macron, but they're both keep pushing their dates back because it's just like still disgusting. And then people are protesting, and there's a hashtag that's in French that I'm not going to venture to say out loud, but the hashtag is I shit in the Seine on June 23rd, which is a whole bunch of people are planning to shit in the Seine prior to the mayor swimming in it. And there's like a website that you can go to show where you are in the Seine, like upriver, and what time you should poop so that your poop gets there at the right time.
People are nuts. This is why you
So
can't have nice things.
yes, this is what I can sing. So that's what's happening in Paris right now. We will see what happens. And of course, other things are happening, like underpaid illegal immigrants are building the buildings. A lot of unhoused people have been displaced. They're definitely not prepared for the influx of people and events. So we'll see how they do, but we'll learn all about it as we move up to it. And I think then we should be pretty much done with this series by the time it starts. So we'll know a lot about it by the time we get to the Olympics, and we can talk as a group about our favorite events and what's happening. If we can figure out how to watch it without like getting our parents' cable password and trying to figure out how to get it on TV and then watching it without commentary in some ways. And that's always so annoying. But I'm super excited for gymnastics. I'm excited for the running. Um, I'm excited for a lot of it.
Wait, the mayor of Paris is a Hispanic socialist woman?
Yeah.
When did this? I do not keep up with other
How would
countries'
you know?
politics.
Anne Hidalgo, Spanish-born French politician. She's been mayor of Paris for 10 years, so we're way behind.
We're way. She's from the Socialist Party. Oh, yeah, she's literally. Wait, she was born in Spain. That is like weird. Like I'm shocked that French people are that open about things. They seem like an uppity people, right?
Yeah, it looks like she moved to France. They were refugees in France after the Spanish Civil War.
Man, they must be super liberal in France or in Paris.
I think they are. I think that's
Interesting.
part of all the protests and such. Ooh, she gets to live. Oh my God, she gets to live in this huge palace.
Really?
Yeah, the Hotel de Ville. Super fun. Anyway, I'm excited. That's how it started. That's what's going on right now. And then next week, I will talk about the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which was hosted by Hitler. And also, I learned in this research that Berlin tried to host again, and they've been on the thing a couple times, and people are like, no. The
You've
IOC is
lost
like,
your
you
privilege.
can maybe do it in Hamburg, but like you cannot do it in Berlin again. So
Berlin's dope though. I love Berlin.
I know Berlin's awesome, but like, we'll see if they ever let them do it again.
This palace the mayor lives in is insane.
I know.
Like, what on earth is this thing?
Oh my
It
God, it's so
looks like
pretty.
Versailles.
It does.
Hey,
I just want like higher ceilings.
you should watch that movie. It's really
I
fun.
will.
The
That seems
whole thing is
awesome.
about swimming in the Seine and how they find this shark and the shark tracks itself into the Seine and yeah, it's a whole thing.
That sounds amazing. I love that. I love the I mean, I love talking about Paris and how like the catacombs of Paris is like built on top of a bunch of dead people anyway.
It's
So
terrifying. Yeah.
it's always super fun. And then yeah, I love the idea of being chased by a shark. I had a friend who was going to swim from Staten Island to Ellis Island one time, and she asked me and Juan to be her partners, or we would be in a canoe and she would be swimming, but then she ended up getting sick and not being able to do it. But I was like 100% yes, I will be your canoe person. And we would like canoe next to her and like give her snacks
That's
like a dolphin.
man, that's a lot of responsibility, I think.
I know, but I was like, this seems awesome. I'm bummed we never did it because I think that would have been really fun.
Well, as always, next time.
Hmm.
Sweet. Well,
Cool.
this is exciting.
Yes.
Our
Yeah.
topics are actually going to overlap this week, kind of, like sort of almost, but they're like
Sweet.
little bit. There's something there. So,
Awesome.
um,
Please, yeah, please, friends, if you have something about the Olympics that you love or like a little story that you want to hear more about, let me know because I'm gonna do like the big ones, but also some other fun little stories in there too. So, um, let us know what you think. We're at doomedtoffailpod@gmail.com. We had a couple people write in. Kiara sent us a bunch of ideas that I'll forward over to you, Faris, so
nice.
you can have that. And then Nadine, our friend Nadine is in London right now, and she was just telling me that she was in London, which is super fun. So I asked her to report back if she sees that weird ass painting of the king.
So creepy. Did
Oh,
you hear it got vandalized?
yes, it's so stupid. It has a Walton grommet on it about
Yeah.
cheese or something. Um, yeah. It is what it is. But yeah, find us on all of the socials at Doomed to Fail Pod. I swear to God, I'm going to get our website working. I'm going to potentially murder someone, but now I have stopped even trying to do scene names and text records, and I'm now moving the URL over to Squarespace.
All right. There you have it. We will have a
So
website soon, seemingly.
who the fuck knows? We'll try our
Who the fuck
best.
knows? Well, thank you, Taylor. Thank you for sharing. Excited. Always
Mhm.
love your multi-part series, and this one's especially
You.
topical given the Olympics. And yeah, there's so much richness to like the topic. You got like what happened in Munich. You got like
Hmm.
the Nancy Kerrigan situation I just mentioned. You got the Atlantic bomb. There's a lot that's wrapped up in it. So
I might have to add like just like fun scandals as like a last one or something that we talk about because there's like all of the drugs.
the doping,
Yeah.
Project Icarus, all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot to
Um,
it.
yeah. So we'll see.
Sweet. Anything else you want to say before we wrap?
Nope.
Alrighty, write to us again at doomedtoffailpod@gmail.com, and we will join you again in a few days. Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks.